You're watching NFL Daily. We have the top 12 quarterbacks entering the NFL draft. And Tom, this is your wheelhouse. Go give my man a follow at What Going Downey. Just take it away, man.
Yeah, we won't spend too much time on Joe Burrow because, quite frankly, you don't need me to tell you how good he is. It's very obvious, and I haven't seen anyone disagreeing with it on that front. He has great accuracy, and my favorite trait for Burrow, beyond, of course, his obscene production this past year, his pocket manipulation. Joe Burrow, if you're looking for a comp here, kind of reminds me at times of a Tony Romo, or if you want a more current comp, Jared Goff, but he's actually good under pressure. That quarterback's really good because that's Jared Goff's biggest issue. On the negative side, because you have to address the negatives, he is an older prospect. The arm strength's not ideal. Also hates Skyline. That's a potential issue for him when he's taken number 1 overall by the Cincinnati Bengals.
You want to explain what that is, Skyline?
It is a Cincinnati delicacy. It's chili.
It's chili. Tom's from Cincinnati. Nobody else knows what Skyline is. Let's go to the second quarterback on Tom's list that's, well, I don't know, Tom. I think you can make an argument for number 1. Maybe. Number 2, Tua?
I still think the correct answer here is Tua, just because, or in terms of number 2, sorry, that wasn't very clear. Not just beyond the health, but Tua is not as good against pressure as Joe Burrow is. There are some similarities in their game. Their arms are good enough, even maybe a bit above average, but they're not elite by any means. They're both highly accurate, especially on the deep ball. Tua has a very good feel for the game. I think both quarterbacks kind of hold the ball a little bit too long, but I think both these guys, provided they stay healthy, are going to be franchise quarterbacks in the NFL. But the medical side of it, Mitch, that is a big-time red flag for Tua. I think there will be teams who have major reservations about that, even if he passes the normal physical, that might be just enough to pull Tua down from that number 2 list, at least on some teams' boards. But I think he goes number 2 in this year's draft among the quarterbacks.
I think Tua is a very, very special prospect. And when you're comparing Tua and Joe Burrow, you're definitely going to say, okay, I think we're going to try to wave a little bit of a magical wand, Tom, where we say Tua's going to be 100% healthy. And I understand that's just what we're trying to do right now in this day and time. But Joe Burrow, Tua, they were both very productive when on the field last year.
Yeah, I think that's an area of strength for both of those quarterbacks. And you can make it a second argument that, hey, they had great supporting cast. I'll flip it around, though. LSU, Alabama have always had great supporting casts. How often have those players produced in the way that they have? You haven't seen quarterbacks play like that. So for me, it's a worthwhile discussion to bring up the supporting cast around them. But I think that they are transcendent talents relative to the other guys that have come before at those schools.
So Joe Burrow, Tua, I'm going to wave my magical wand here. Can't see it. It's underneath the table. And I want you to say that this, all right? So pick a quarterback, Tua or Joe Burrow. We're going to say both of them are 100% healthy. So type T for Tua, type B for Burrow, and I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's video. Let's get into number 3 here on your list, Tom. Justin Herbert out of Oregon.
This is the first player that does not have a true first-round grade for me. He has a 1/2 grade, but that is still someone who's going to check in inside my top 32 once we get to my official big board coming out week and a half. We'll see exactly what it ends up being. He has all the traits that you want, the size, the arm strength, the athleticism. He's what people try to tell you Daniel Jones was last year. Or maybe Ryan Tannehill ends up being a nice comp there. Herbert has the ability to make all the throws, to make the plays. He moves really well for a player of his size as well. But the consistency, which isn't always reflected in the raw stats, the decision-making, it's not always there. Herbert is a highly intelligent player. This is a 3-time academic All-American. The concern, though, is that doesn't always process to reading defenses and reacting quickly. But I think he's a worthwhile shot as a potential franchise quarterback. He's just not as polished or refined as Burrow or Herbert is.
We want you to do this right now. If you like this video and you want to see more draft prospect rankings, like the video. We got to get over 600 likes. Tom is the best in the biz, so if you want to see draft ranking videos for running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defense, go ahead, like this video. We're going to be breaking down all the top prospect rankings video. And while you're doing that, go give my man a follow on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. All right, Tom, let's get into the number 4 quarterback here on your list. Some of you might love him. Jordan?
That's a terrible joke, Mitch. Please stop making it going forward. There's a big drop-off for me. 1 and then 2, 3 pretty clear, and then 4. I want to love Jordan Love, as I make the same bad joke that I yelled at Mitch for doing, but I have a very difficult time trusting him because of what we saw in 2019. Plain and simply, Jordan Love regressed as a prospect. There's no way around it. Now, part of that was because his coaching staff left. He had one returning starter. His receivers were horrible this past year, way too many drops. The traits and the upside is certainly there. He has the arm. I love his release. Kind of reminds me actually a little bit of Jimmy Garoppolo's type release, which I think is a better comp than some of the higher-end ones I've seen thrown out there for him. But you almost have to sit him for an entire year because the decision-making was bad, and he needs time to acclimate and be coached up a little bit. So the upside is there. He is the single biggest boom or bust prospect in this year's class for where he's going to end up going. But there certainly are some significant concerns to have with Jordan.
I do say this, though, Tom. I think that there are 4 quarterbacks, in my opinion, that kind of could go in that first round. Some might argue 5. So we're going to ask you, if I make the over-under 3.5 quarterbacks in round 1, would you type your O for over or type your U for under? Let us know in the comments section. Tom, I'm going to type my O for over. Number 5 here on our list from Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts. Tom, you're going to have to sell me on this one.
So, again, I mentioned kind of like there are tiers here. There's another tier right here for Jalen Hurts. I have him graded out in the end as a round 4 player. You could maybe talk me into a low 3, high 4 grade. I'm right kind of going back and forth there. But I think there is a drop-off after Jordan Love in terms of the quarterback prospects. For being worth a early round pick, you have to be a potential starting quarterback. And I do see a path for that with Jalen Hurts. I believe the NFL is moving more and more towards mobile, athletic, dynamic quarterbacks who can help you out on the ground. Jalen Hurts, by obvious accounts, has that in spades, and he's a fantastic leader. You want this guy on your team. As a backup, he's going to go about it the exact right way. So those intangibles give him a high 4. He's going to be a really good backup quarterback, but is that a true 3-4 grade? Do you want him in round 3 or do you want to wait in round 4? He has to become a better processor. He simply doesn't read and react fast enough with defenses to be a full-fledged, obvious starting quarterback. Now, he's going to impress well in interviews. You're going to love this guy once you have him on your team. He can be a low-end Tyrod Taylor starter type. I am just not convinced yet that because the processing is a little bit behind and the arm is not enough to make up for it, that he's going to be able to be a full-fledged starter in the NFL.
The number 6 quarterback here on Tom's top ranking list, you got Jake Fromm from Georgia.
Tiny hands, Jake Fromm, just so we're clear that matters too much. He's kind of in a similar boat here as Jalen Hurts, but I went with Hurts or Fromm because I would rather have Hurts on my team. There is, again, a higher floor, a different prospect for Jake Fromm. Nowhere near the athlete that Jalen Hurts is. But he doesn't make mistakes. He can be a game manager backup. He could be maybe Chase Daniel ends up being the comp where I think Jake Fromm is going to have a 10-year NFL career. I just don't know how many starts he's going to end up getting. And that's my concern with Fromm. You saw it there on the second note. You see it in the stats too. The turnovers are low. The completion percentage wasn't that great, but for the most part, exactly, though it does tend to wane at times. Jake Fromm was not a playmaker at Georgia. So the question that NFL teams and everyone watching and myself have to figure out, was he protected or limited by Georgia? That is very tricky to figure out. I think that there is a very good chance he was more protected by Georgia. But I think he could become a Kirk Cousins level starter. So if you're looking for a backup for now and a guy that can help you out if you need to play somebody, I think Fromm fits that mold. I just don't see obvious franchise quarterback material for him.
Well, when Jake Fromm does hear his name, he's going to be putting on one of these hats. Maybe not a Cowboys hat, but an NFL draft hat. Go to chatsports.com/NFL draft hat. Rep your team, repping them in the offseason. You can get the straight bill. You can get the curved brim. Right now, they are under $40, but you got to go to chatsports.com/NFL draft hat. These are going very, very quickly. And if you can't remember the link, we'll put it in the comments. We'll put it in the description down below. And for the first time in a long time, these are actual NFL draft hats that I think players would want to wear. And that's the thing, it's the hats that fans would want to wear. Let's go to number 7 here on our list, Tom. Jacob Eason. I like Eason. I like his upside.
These are 3 straight 4th-round grades for me here with Hurts, Fromm, and Eason. So there's kind of a tier here. I think Eason, though, closer to Hurts. Very different prospect from the other two, though. Jacob Eason is a boom or bust player. He looks the part. He's got the size. He's got a really good arm. Has under center pro-style reps on his film. He looks like the guy you want to be your franchise quarterback. The problem is, even though the highs are interesting, there's some great tapes or great throws on his tape, the consistency does not exist. And under pressure, Jacob Eason really struggles. And there's a play that is stuck in my mind that indicates, hey, he's not a good processor, which is understandable. He hasn't played very much. That's also a big time red flag. Against I'm pretty sure it's Cal. Near the goal line, Eason rolls out to his left. His receiver is wide open. And Eason stares at him for a full step and stride and then throws it late and outside. And instead of an easy touchdown, it's intercepted. I don't trust the pocket presence. The arm is going to intrigue teams, but he requires a lot of work to get him close to being a starting caliber guy right now. And with limited reps beforehand, that's kind of a red flag for me.
I love that you put this one in here because both former Georgia quarterbacks, Jake Fromm, he edged out Eason. So we want you to get your votes in here. Type F for Fromm, type E for Eason. Tom, who are you going with?
I'll answer it by not answer because obviously I have Fromm ahead. But if you want a guy that could be a long-term franchise starter, I think Eason is your bet. And I think maybe Bruce Arians could be a guy to get him out there because that's a really good fit for him, by the way. If you want someone to have a longer NFL career, the safer pick, you type in your F for Jake Fromm.
Let's go to number 8 here, Anthony Gordon. Kind of listed him as a sleeper, but so many people have listed him as a sleeper that he's not a sleeper anymore.
After number 8, there is a major, major drop-off. This is the last of my round 4 grades that I have on quarterbacks. The production is awesome for Anthony Gordon. I actually like his release a lot. I think it's a very quick release. He's able to contort his arm angles. That's all valuable stuff. The upper body, the lower body, the footwork, and the release aren't always in sync, and it can lead to some issues. He's undersized. He's only 6'2" and some change, 205. There are some reckless decisions by Anthony Gordon, which is fine. That's kind of the nature of the offense. Big-time change coming up. Pressure rattles him. He really struggles in that area. The production's inflated. My biggest concern with Gordon, he does turn 24 before the season. I am more often than not concerned about older developmental quarterbacks, but if there is a sleeper this year, Gordon is your guy.
Number 9 quarterback on our list from Hawaii, Cole McDonald, who I actually didn't even recognize him without the hair.
Yeah, these are now all 6/round 7 grades for me, so you can tell how big of a drop-off that is. These are guys that you can draft them if you want, but I won't be upset if they go undrafted. He is fun to watch, man. He is the most fun quarterback to watch because there is not a throw that Cole McDonald doesn't think, I got this. And that's why he was benched multiple times at Hawaii. There's way too many mistakes, inconsistencies. He's a good athlete, though, with a strong arm. As a late-round pick developmental guy, sure, why not? Just be fully aware that he might flame out of the NFL real quick if he doesn't try to dial back some of that reckless decision-making. Pressure also tends to rattle this guy. The player comp is easy. He's Jameis Winston, obviously a much lesser version, because he is just reckless out there making decisions, but it makes it fun to watch, I'll tell you that. He also has a pretty big
version of Jameis Winston. 40 interceptions, Tom. 40. So who's your favorite day 3 quarterback prospect? Tom, besides McDonald, can you give us another name, maybe a favorite day 3 quarterback prospect?
I count Anthony Gordon in that discussion because I think that he's not going to go in round 3, but I think that someone like a Jacob Eason, Jalen Hurts, Jake Fromm are more likely to go earlier there. So I include Anthony Gordon in there. As for McDonald, I think that fits. He's just wild, which makes him fun and also very dangerous.
Now let's go into number 10 here on our list, Tyler Huntley.
Huntley is someone that I'm higher on than I think most people, and that's really not saying that much because I still have him graded out as a, round 6, round 7 type of guy. He is an undersized player. He absolutely must bulk up. But he's a pretty solid athlete, and much like Jake Fromm, for example, he is going to take care of the football for you. He's going to be accurate. He's going to be a game manager. I can find a role for a backup who is accurate, doesn't turn the football over, and can move a little bit. Now, he is a little bit older. He's battled through a bunch of injuries in his college career, gutted through a lot this year, by the way. I respect him for that. He's not going to bring you a ton of plays, but as a number 3, maybe a low-end number 2 quarterback, I think that could make some sense for a team.
Number 11 quarterback is James Morgan from Florida International, and I have heard so many different reports on Morgan, and he's number 11 on your list.
Morgan is, I know that he has some fans in the NFL and the scouting community because he has the arm, right? He's 6'4", 229. He's got good arm strength. And that's why you might end up drafting him. But I will always try to be honest with you guys. I don't get it. Like, I do value production. He's not accurate. I need an accurate quarterback. I don't want to take a 23-year-old who hasn't shown good accuracy because, he's got a big-time arm. I don't see it. I didn't see it at Bowling Green, which I saw him play live. I didn't see it at FIU. I just don't understand the love for James Morgan beyond size and arm strength. I would rather go with maybe someone who brings you more on the ground or has been more accurate.
The last quarterback here on our list, Tom, it's SHEA Patterson from Michigan. Mobile quarterback, but does he have enough arm?
I think the arm is there. I don't think it's as maybe low as some people might think that it is. The talent is there. This was a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, but he's never really put it all together. And you see the drop-off right there, right? The completion percentage dip inside that new Michigan offense. The inconsistency has never been ironed out for SHEA Patterson. Maybe Connor Shaw can end up being his comp because he is a pretty solid athlete. He's gone through, Mitch, 5 schools in 5 years between high school, or 8 years, 5 schools in 8 years between high school and college football. That's a lot of change for a player. The steadiness has never been there. Maybe he gets some of that and he can put some of it together and be a backup quarterback.
So we want you to pick a quarterback. I like the Big Ten. I grew up watching Penn State football. So SHEA Patterson or Brian Lewerke from Michigan State. Give us a P for Patterson or an L for Lewerke. I'm going to type my P for Patterson.
That is the correct answer. Many of you guys have asked me, hey, Tom, why don't you put out your draft notes? I refuse to do so because I am very blunt in my assessment because I got to get through a lot of guys. My Brian Lewerke notes are absolutely brutal. I've seen people say he's draftable. I have seen people say they used to be a first-round buzz. No, he's not good. It's P. It's obviously SHEA.
Let's go to some honorable mentions that just did not quite crack our top 12. Tom, which one out of all these 5 quarterbacks here do you think has maybe the best chance in the NFL?
I think it might be Bryce Perkins. I like him. He's a pretty solid athlete. I think that could help him out as a potential back end for a team like that wants to run the ball with their quarterback, maybe like a Ravens, for example. They do, of course, have Trace McSorley. I like Bryce Perkins. All these guys, though, and you kind of saw it as we got through the Pattersons, the Morgans, the Huntleys, and the McDonalds. Those are all round 7 at best guys. Most of them will end up going undrafted.